Hey, how's it going, tennis world? This is Brian. The Australian Open draws are out. They've been analyzed to death already, but fear not, I'm gonna throw in my own analysis into the ring of many analyses that already exist. So stay tuned, listen up, and see if you agree with me. You're watching Tennis and a Brew. So first I want to apologize to all the beer drinkers out there. This is all I could muster for today's show. It's a bottle of Trader Joe's finest wine. I don't even know what kind of wine. I know it's red. Shall we begin? It's good stuff. Let us analyze the Australian Open draws. Wow, there's a lot to be excited about. First off, Lleyton Hewitt, the Aussie great, is gonna call it a day in his home at the Australian Open. He's had many great tournament runs in the past. Obviously, he has the 2 Grand Slams, Wimbledon and the US Open. The US Open's probably the most remarkable because he beat Sampras back in 2001. The guy had a Hall of Fame career. He's gonna go on to be a great Aussie Davis Cup captain and mentor to the younger guys because the young Aussies need it, let's face it. If anybody saw what happened this week with Mr. Bernard Tomic, if that's any indication that they're a bit immature, yeah, there you go. So the Hewitt thing is a big deal. In his first match, his first round match, which obviously will be played on Rod Laver, he's gonna face a fellow countryman by the name of James Duckworth. Not a huge name, hasn't had a lot of tour level success, but I think that's the way the organizers wanted to schedule it. They wanted to have 2 compatriots going at it. That's gonna be a fun one. I'm sure it'll be a night session match. The crowd will be fired up. Undoubtedly, it'll be the most anticipated first round match down there just because of the circumstances. Hewitt has a great shot of winning it too. It could go 5 sets, it could be epic. It probably will be epic, but either way, salute to Lleyton Hewitt. Great player, great competitor. He represents that Federer generation of guys, the Federer, Roddick, Safin, Tommy Haas generation, which is starting to fade out a little bit. Continuing on the men's side, there's a lot to talk about. The thing that jumped out at me the most, I would say, first glance, kind of skimming through each section, Rafael Nadal is going to have a hell of a time winning in this tournament. It's nothing against him. It's purely he has a ridiculous draw. First round alone, he plays Fernando Verdasco, but he also has Milos Raonic, Jack Sock, and then if he somehow makes it through, he'll have to face Stan Wawrinka potentially in the quarterfinals. Either way, it would be tough for him to win this tournament just based on the way he's played in the last 12 to 18 months, but this draw doesn't make things any easier for him. I would rate his quarter the number 1 quarter right now in terms of strength. There are just so many weapons. Obviously, I said there's Wawrinka to contend with, but even the unseeded players, like he plays Verdasco in the first round. That's not a total gimme. He should win that, granted, but do I have to remind you about 09, the 09 semifinal down there, where it went 5 sets? So they were hitting ridiculous banana forehands and all that Spanish. But I don't think it'll be like that. But the second quarter, which I think is about second in terms of strength, Djokovic's quarter. Most people would argue that it's really Djokovic's to lose, and it is. I mean, he's still the favorite in that quarter. But it's not going to be easy. He has Kei Nishikori. I believe he has Ivo Karlovic, who we all know how dangerous Dr. Ivo can be. He was one of Djokovic's few defeats last year. You have Joe-Willie Tsonga, who is a complete wild card in the sense that we don't know what he's going to bring to the table. He made it to the Aussie final, back in 08, so he's capable of that. Or you could get the Tsonga that loses in the first round. And then there's also Gilles Simon, who's another wild card, and you would expect Djokovic to get past him fairly easily. If he does get past all that, assuming he does, then he would potentially play Roger Federer, who is in the 3rd quarter, which I think is the 3rd hardest or 2nd easiest of the 4. In Federer's quarter, it's going to be interesting because we have a guy who really struggled last season, Grigor Dimitrov, who could potentially play Federer in the 3rd round. I know you're thinking Dimitrov, Federer in the 3rd round. That seems impossible. That's what happens when you play very poorly the season before. You lose all your points. It's great for Dimitrov because he has virtually no points to defend in any of these tournaments coming up, but it's going to be tough for Roger. Dimitrov's tricky. He just pushed him in Brisbane. You would expect Federer to come through in a Grand Slam setting, but then again, Dimitrov plays just like him, so he could out-Federer Federer. What? You see what I did there? Dominic Thiem is another one. Federer could potentially face him. David Goffin. I said Tomas Berdych. You have Roberto Bautista Agut, who's hot and cold as well. Nick Kyrgios is in that quarter. On second glance, this might be a more difficult quarter than I had previously listed it as. Actually, you know what? I'm going to put this quarter as the 2nd hardest, and I think I would put Djokovic as the third. I think the easiest quarter of the for the men is Andy Murray's section. On the other side of it, he has David Ferrer, who is, by his standards, played pretty poorly so far. He's got Bernard Tomic, John Isner. I would almost go out on a limb and say it's a cakewalk for Murray in his quarter. I'm probably gonna regret my words, but that's how I feel at the moment until somebody proves me otherwise. I just don't see much competition for him. I still pick Novak to win the overall tournament. He's Novak. There's no reason to discount the guy until he gives you a reason to discount him. And so far this season, he's played exemplary. He hasn't lost a tournament since probably back when they discovered fire. So I would pick him to win the Aussie Open in singles, and he would probably win it in doubles by himself as well. He's that good. Interesting first round matches. Here's some enticing ones that I'm definitely going to tune into. Jill Simone versus Vasek Pospisil has potential. I could see this match easily going 5 sets. It just has that feel to it. Another one is Joe Willie Tsonga against Marcos Baghdatis, which is also on my 5-setter watch. I've seen both of those guys actually play a bazillion 5-set matches down in Australia. Then you have Nick Kyrgios, who's always a curious case. First round opponent is a little bit tricky. The Spaniard Pablo Carreno Busta, who shows really good signs of potential. I'd expect Kyrgios to win it in 4 sets. This is another guy who loves 5-set matches at the Australian Open. It's Ernest Gulbis. He plays the Frenchman Jeremy Chardy, who has been practicing with Djokovic a lot, so he's probably gotten a lot better. My other one is Leighton Hewitt against James Duckworth for obvious reasons. John Isner, this is a great one if you like really tall guys serving well, versus Jerzy Janowicz. Now, Jerzy was another young gun with tons of potential about 2 or 3 years ago, and since then he's been very up and down. But you know, there's always that firepower potential. If he comes out and plays his A game, he can pretty much beat anybody. We saw that a few years ago in Paris, the Masters, making it all the way to the final. Fabio Fognini against Gilles Muller. Fognini should win very easily on paper. However, I've seen him play his share of 5-set matches at Grand Slams. Mentally, it's difficult for him to stay in a match and finish it up quickly. He tends to wander all over the place, and so do his rackets. And then Donald Young, yes, he's playing this tournament. He always plays pretty well in the US Open. It's everywhere else that he typically struggles. He plays an opponent that he could easily beat, or he could lose too miserably. Santiago Geraldo. It should be a popcorn match, as they say in the biz. I could see that one going 4 to 5 sets. Donald Young prevailing by a nose hair. I think there's going to be more tight first round matches than we've had in a very long time down there. Keep ESPN on 24/7 through the night. Stay up, make tons of coffee, do what you have to do, but it's going to be an epic first round. So be ready. On the women's side, a lot of intrigue, a lot of eyes are on Serena Williams, as usual, but on her section of the draw in particular, she could potentially face Maria Sharapova as early as the quarterfinals. Now, Maria pulled out of Brisbane with injury. Actually, a lot of the female players pulled out last week with injuries. Serena did, in fact. The tournament's pretty wide open because of that. I don't think there's any way you can point to one person and say, oh, she's gonna win, hands down. Radwanska, Muguruza, there's not a clear favorite. I know a lot of people are thinking, well, this opens the door for Azarenka, who's won the Aussie before. I don't know, man. I have a lot of faith in Serena Williams, and I think she's gonna be the winner this time around. Her quarter is not particularly strong outside of Sharapova, which, I mean, let's be honest, Sharapova against Serena head-to-head, not so good. Potential semifinal match could be Petra Kvitova, could be Roberta Vinci, Sloane Stephens, Sam Stosur, Aggie Radwanska. I think Serena's gonna have a pretty clear path to the final, assuming she's healthy and no one else is playing out of their minds like Roberta Vinci did last year. And we all know what happened in that scenario. There's no need to rehash it. On the other side of the draw, you have Angelique Kerber, Simona Halep, Timea Bashinsky, Yelena Yankovic, Madison Keys, but it also has Venus Williams, Garbine Muguruza. I think this half of the draw is completely loaded compared to the other half. These girls are just gonna duke it out. Samantha Crawford, you know, a lot of eyes were on her, young, promising American. Don't think she's gonna do big things in this tournament. Unfortunately, she would have to play Victoria Azarenka as early as the second round. And that's just the luck of the draw, you know, just ask Nadal. On this side of the draw, I think Azarenka's gonna come through. Between Azarenka and Simona Halep, I believe. There's gonna be some intriguing matches early on. The one that I think you should all circle right now is between Agnieszka Radwanska and Christina McHale. You all know Christina McHale. She's the kid from Jersey. She has a lot of promise. I think she could take Radwanska down, honestly. Radwanska has had injury issues of late, but assuming Radwanska does get past it, that sets up a second round match that is absolutely crazy, out of this world. How does this even happen kind of a match against Eugenie Bouchard. Eugenie Bouchard, Eugenie, who calls her Eugenie anymore? It's Jeannie, right? Jeannie Bouchard is kind of like the Grigor Dimitrov of the women's tour. Both players struggled mightily last season, even to win a match. And so now they're both finding themselves in really difficult positions here in the Australian Open because their ranking is very low. That means that they have to play higher seeds earlier on into the tournament. The women's Australian Open champion, I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that Serena Williams will be your champion. And that's not just because I bleed Serena. I like her. I'm gonna put that out. I like Serena Williams. I like her a lot. She's gonna win. Thanks a lot for watching. Those are my stupid predictions. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Either way, tune in next time as we break down the action at the Australian Open, Week 1. See you then.